Thank you very much for joining us today for this conversation about being trustees and board members at Compton Verney. First of all, Lydia, would you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, hello. I'm Lydia Thomas. I'm a trustee of Compton Verney House Charity, and I've been on the board for the last 7 years. We have 8-year terms, and I also chair the Nominations and Remuneration Committee.
Marvelous. Thank you very much. And Kate, how about yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Kate Lister-Smith. I'm 23 and I graduated in History of Art last summer. I now work at the University of Warwick in public engagement. I first got involved with Compton Verney when I did a student producer program last year or the year before, losing track of time, which I really loved.
Amazing. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Kate. So, Lydia, I think I'm going to start with yourself. What made you decide to become a trustee for Compton Verney?
Okay, well, I've been a visitor here for many, many years since it first opened. And when the opportunity came up to support it and to play a part in the leadership and contribute to the development of the charity through its offer of art, nature and creativity and so on for everyone, I was delighted to get that chance, and that hasn't changed in the 7 years that I've been here.
Fantastic. That sounds great. And Kate, yourself, really, what attracted you to the role of a young board member?
Yeah, there were a couple of reasons, and one echoes a lot of what Lydia said. I just love Compton Verney as a place and really loved the idea of being able to kind of give back and contribute. I grew up in Coventry, so only kind of 35-minute drive from Compton Verney, and visited a few times, growing up. So it was somewhere that I really liked. I really enjoy spending time. So there was that aspect of kind of being able to give back to an institution that you love. And then the other thing, potentially more selfishly, it was just that I'm at the start of my career, and the opportunity to be a young board member I thought was really good kind of for professional and personal development. So there was a little bit of that side to it as well.
Oh, that's brilliant. So, I mean, actually, you've just mentioned about that professional development opportunity. Lydia, perhaps to come back to yourself, what's the best part about being a trustee?
I think being able to support and guide and mentor, and also to be involved in the future plans, the vision, the ideas. And as trustees, we're not obviously involved in the day-to-day in the same way that the executive and the volunteers are. So it's that chance to be the oft-used phrase, isn't it? A critical friend. And I think it's using that in the best way possible to support and develop all the opportunities, all the ideas, all the offerings that a charity like Compton Verney can offer to people.
Brilliant, thank you. And so, other than perhaps that professional development opportunity, Kate, is there anything that you've experienced now that you find is the best part of being a young board member?
Yeah, I think it's the opportunity to make a really, really meaningful contribution, and also the chance to get that kind of very high level look at how an institution of that size, of that shape, runs. I've been to 3 board meetings now and already learned just so much about how kind of art gallery and grounds in the Warwickshire countryside operates. You learn things about finances, you learn about how the staff run on a day-to-day basis. Like Lydia said, we're removed, but that means you get a broad overview of the whole thing and kind of how it works. And it's really wonderful to start to understand how those things come together to create a great space that people can visit.
Fantastic. And perhaps we'll continue with you for a moment, Kate, then. So that's all several best things I think on being a young board member. How about the most challenging? What's the most challenging part of the role?
It was definitely getting used to some of the jargon that's used. I've come from kind of that arty background, the passion for the art side of it, which means when there's discussions that are more businessy or definitely on the more finance end, there's lots of terminology that I've never come across, lots of concepts that I've never seen before, and it's just getting used to that. And I do think it's okay to not know those things. And I think there's plenty of people in the room that probably also don't know, because their background isn't actually a specialism in that business side or that, that side. Everyone's got a different perspective. So it's challenging, but it's also, I'm learning that it's okay to not obviously understand absolutely everything that's talked about.
Fantastic. You're so positive about the challenges that are in there as well. I wonder if any of those are echoed perhaps by Lydia yourself. Do those sound familiar to you? Is there anything in particular that you find most challenging about being a trustee?
I think in a sense they do, because when we have such a mixture of skills and abilities on our board, as most boards do, hopefully. And when new people start, obviously, getting to know everyone, getting to understand the main considerations, the main things that you've got to work on and develop. So I think it's quite natural to feel those things. I think for me, I think it's less challenges than considerations, because we are not here every day. I mean, in my working life, I was obviously involved in great detail in what was going on, and as a trustee or a board member, you're removed from that. So it's up to you to make sure that you're staying across everything that you need to be aware of as well as possible. And that includes making sure that you read all of the board papers thoroughly, and that you do all the work that's needed, but without becoming overly involved in the way that the exec is. So it's that balance. And I think, that becomes easier as you become more experienced on a board.
Brilliant. And I don't mean to throw you off here, because this is a bit of an unplanned question for you, Lydia, but you mentioned about the board papers. I just wondered if you had any top tips for anyone who might be slightly newer to having to digest board papers. How do you approach them? Is there a particular technique you use to take it in, or?
That's an interesting one, isn't it? Gosh, I think everybody has to sort that one out. I think it's really helpful when they're being prepared, that you get the key points on the front page. What are you being asked to consider? What are the headlines? And really, the supporting information in the papers is there for obviously to support it and so on. But I think the preparation of the papers is really important. And I think a really strong agenda that doesn't overpack it with loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of items, and that also sets out the difference between items that are there for discussion only, or decision, or noting, whatever it is, so that you're clearly prepared for when you're looking at all those board papers for the information you need to take in and you need to consider. And in an ideal world, to have the timings down on the side, so that you know how much is allocated to each item, because I think particularly when you start, it's quite helpful to get a sense of the either the importance or the weight of a particular topic. So off the top of my head, that's what
I mean, that was a pretty incredible answer for an off the top of the head, I think, Lydia. Kate, is there anything that you would like to either add to that specifically, or in general, actually, also perhaps answer the question of what support you were offered when you joined the board? Sort of what worked well for you to understand how to read the board papers, or how to act in the meetings, or how to prepare any of those things?
Yeah, I think just on that note of kind of tips for approaching the board papers, which I think is advice I was kind of given at the start, is really kind of echoing what I previously said, to not be afraid of the jargon, not be afraid that there's bits that you won't understand, and to ask those questions, whether maybe informally, kind of not in the board meeting, maybe just checking with someone individually, do you know what that means, just to understand, or if it's quite a big thing that you don't understand, that it's okay to ask and question in the meeting, because that's the point. We're there to, as I said, be the critical friend. So if it doesn't make sense, it might not make sense to everyone else, and you know, bring it up and maybe see if that is, you know, worth being part of the discussion. So yeah, just wanted to add that on that point. And yes, that was some advice that I feel I was given, and there was a really thorough induction process, which was really wonderful when I started. I got given a really chunky induction pack, which looked scary but was very helpful. There was lots of information about Compton Verney, various bits to do with kind of strategy and understanding of what the upcoming program was. Just nice stuff to really understand about the institution. And then there was also lots of information about being a board member. I think there was something from the Charity Commission all about kind of the responsibilities of what, you know, a formal trustee would do. So I don't have the same kind of legal formal responsibilities as a trustee, but I'm still kind of acting in the same way because I'm still in the space. I'm still able to contribute and things. So there was kind of lots of information more formally about that. And also myself and the other young board members kind of had a more informal get together before the first board meeting, so we could meet each other and we could chat through any kind of worries or concerns or questions, and that really helped. So there was definitely a kind of induction and introductory kind of session and setup, which was really good support to have at the start.
Brilliant. That's such a good idea. I was just thinking about oh, you know, actually that would have been such a fun, no doubt, meeting or informal catch up with the other one as well, just embracing a new opportunity. So yeah, that sounds like a really lovely way to do it as well. Fantastic. So I think I'll just stay with you a second, actually, Kate, to you sort of saying how you started off there, really getting a thorough induction, meeting with your fellow young board member. So how did you find your first board meeting? So I think you mentioned you've been to 3 so far.
Yes.
So maybe you can paint the picture of that, how that first one looked for us.
Yeah, I remember it feeling a tiny bit scary. It was quite nice because we were told the first one we were just there as observers, so there was absolutely no pressure to contribute, which I think was nice. It was nice to just kind of sit back and listen and try and absorb things. And I think the only reason it felt a bit scary is because you're kind of gathered in a room of the great and the good. There were people from institutions that other institutions that I know and admire in obviously quite senior positions, and people who are quite, really well established in their careers and really successful. So there was just that moment of, wow, this is a group of really incredible kind of influential people. But I settled in very quickly because it was instantly such a welcoming environment. One of the first things that was done by the chair was to just make sure everyone ran around and introduced themselves, which was, nice. And we often, there's tea and coffee. So if, before and after, you can kind of have a bit more of an informal chat with people. And I definitely think then when I came to the second one and knew that I was able to contribute, I already felt comfortable. I already felt like my voice would actually be valued. I also knew that, the trustees had chosen to have us there. They wanted us there. They wanted a youth voice. So that kind of gave me the confidence that they do care about what I have to say as well. So yeah, a bit scary, but very instantly became welcoming.
And just like maybe you had some questions in advance, you've marvellously brought us on to the next one, I think, for Lydia, which was, you mentioned that the trustees wanted you there, Kate. Lydia, what was it that made Compton Verney want to appoint young people as young board members?
I think it was very much a development of work that had already gone on with an advisory panel, hearing the views of young adults on what they valued, what they wanted from us, and so on. And I think as well the student producer roles that we'd had in place. I think just getting that fresh perspective from young adults. I mean, our youth board members are 18 plus, so you know, we respect and genuinely value that that range of ideas, that fresh insight, and I don't think there were any quibbles whatsoever about progressing this in a collaborative and welcoming way.
Mm.
Fantastic. That's so good to hear. And again, you know, our next question is all about how did you welcome your young trustees? How did you go about preparing to bring young people in as young board members in this scenario?
I think we thought about it very thoroughly to make sure that we were making the process as open and informative as possible. We thought very carefully about the recruitment pack, which I happen to have. Obviously, it was online and so on, but it was more or less the same as the standard recruitment pack for new trustees, but with a chair's welcome that made clear that we're, and I quote, "we're particularly keen to bring in the voices of young people to our leadership to help shape our future." And it had a sense of, we put the history and the context, the mission, the vision, the values, and also about our inclusivity and the diversity and so on that we're working to foster here. We explained the role of the board, and we also looked in great detail, or not looked at, explained in great detail what we're looking for. So there was clarity to it for anyone who was interested. And then we ran an open recruitment. We interviewed here and made our choice. And in fact, initially we were looking for placements for just 2. We were able to place 3 people initially. And I think preparing people, having that full induction, meet in a friendly way, you know, we met for coffee and tea, we went through everything. It was a big pack, but we made time to go through everything, because I think preparation is really important. And we do an induction in any case for anyone who's joining. But I think to just be clear about what we are and what is expected, and I think that's really, really valuable.
Fantastic. So you mentioned sort of how you prepared, which sounds very thoroughly, which is marvelous. And we heard from Kate a few minutes ago on how well supported that she felt as well joining the board. Was there anything that you specifically prepared in terms of supporting the young people coming in, or indeed supporting any of the other board members or museum staff? Was there anything you had to create to sort of have that supportive environment?
We agreed that we needed a key trustee, and that's me, and also key people within the on the staff, so that there was regular contact and a named contact if people wanted to get in touch to ask any questions or whatever. And we were very open to, you know, if you've got anything that you need to know, get in touch. So it was, I don't think there were no, as I've said earlier, there were no concerns from the board, because we thought it all through. I think as well, in the induction, we were quite clear about, in certain instances, there's a confidentiality to information, and to be aware of that as a responsibility of being on a board. Obviously, they're not, it's not a formal trustee role, but you are privy to a lot of discussion about things that may or may not be confidential. So just to be aware of that, not to be fearful of it, but to respect that as a member of the board. So I hope it was friendly, informative, clear, and and obvious that we're there to support and we're there to make this work.
Amazing, and getting lots of nods from Kate here, which is fantastic to see.
Yeah.
So perhaps maybe we can make Kate smile a bit more, Lydia. What would you say the biggest impact the young board members have had on the board and Compton Verney so far?
I think hearing their views on the work that we are doing, and having that input at the level of discussion that the board has, and also their visibility within the organisation. They're not just coming to the board meetings. We have private views and other activities. We had an away day down at Chichester. So they're representatives and ambassadors for us as well, in if you like. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Fantastic. And so, Kate, perhaps we can come back to yourself then. Why do you feel it's important for boards to include young people?
Yeah, I certainly think if you're a board for an institution that has any sort of offering for young people, such as Compton Verney, gallery and grounds with a massive kind of families program, young people program, want to be open for all. It's really important then to have those voices in those steering conversations. You're only going to get young people through the door if you hear from them what they want, and that's what we can be there for, really, which is wonderful. And I think the other side to it, particularly kind of for the arts sector, is that it can be hard for people to break in. If someone is starting their career in the arts, getting experience on a board, learning, like I said, about how you kind of learn lots of different aspects of kind of how the institution runs is really incredible development. I feel I'm really appreciative of it. And so there's also an element of giving back. And if an institution, art gallery, for example, wants to feel that it's making a difference in the sector as well, this is a really great way to kind of to contribute and give people a step up and help bring the next wave of people into the sector.
Fantastic. That's great. And we're going to move on to the advice section now, really. So, Kate, I'm going to start with you again, though. What advice would you give to another young person wanting to become a trustee or a board member, a representative in the governance of an arts or heritage organisation?
The advice would just be, if you've thought that you might want to do it, to just give it a go and put in an application or show that you're interested. It's a completely new thing. You will not have come across this, really. I mean, maybe you've been on a kind of committee or a council in school or university, but it's pretty much a completely new situation to be in. It's something you're only going to access when you're an adult, because it's, for people that have responsibility. So it's a completely new thing, and that can often be very, very scary, and it's an unknown. So the only advice would just be, if it sounds like it could be worth doing, just to kind of ignore any sort of fear or any concern, or particularly any kind of imposter syndrome sense. If an institution are looking for a youth board member, it's because they want a youth voice, and so just go for it, really.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kate. Lydia, what advice would you give to a young person wanting to become a young trustee, young board member, and such like?
Well, I couldn't really put it any better than Kate's put it, I think, really. I think, yeah, I think absolutely. And I think for so many people starting out in their careers, often the phrase crops up, X amount of experience necessary. Well, how do you get the experience? This is a great opportunity, if organisations can offer that, to help people get on that ladder. And if we can do anything, then we should.
couldn't agree more. That's absolutely brilliant, and especially an opportunity like this that can be done alongside other things that might already be happening. So in a way, those years experience that people talk about, well, actually you can still gather that in a shorter space of time if you're doing more than one thing. And I think, Kate, you put it really well earlier about learning how an organization of this sort of scale and size works, and that broader view, and so much that you can get that many people in their working life might not experience for many years, if ever, perhaps as well. So it's fantastic. Thank you very much for that advice, both of you. So we are coming on to our sort of top three top tips as well. So I'm going to start with Lydia actually on this one. So what would you say are your three top tips that you might give a board who are considering perhaps appointing their first young trustee, young board member, young representative?
Okay, I would say, first of all, don't be fearful. Be really proactive and thoughtful. Welcome anybody that you give the opportunity to, as you would any other board member joining for the first time. Be clear about the role. Be clear yourselves about what you want and how you're going to support those young board members, and that's in your recruitment information, in your preparation for it as well, and also during their terms with you. And also, I think it's really helpful if you can to appoint a key trustee and a member of the team, or however many you decide it's useful to have, so that there's that sort of triangular relationship between the young people, the young board member, the board, and the exec. And I think if you can pull all that together, you'll have a great opportunity for everyone involved.
Marvelous. And I think it's so very apt that we have our very last question for you, Kate, in this scenario. So similarly, what would be your three top tips for a board who are considering appointing their first young people into a governance role?
So some of what I say is going to echo things that we've already said, but hopefully it will just be a good conclusion. Firstly, which I don't think we have mentioned actually, is to advertise the opportunity really widely. Put it in as many places as you can, put it on social media, making sure that you've got the advert for the opportunity out as wide as you can means you'll hopefully get as broad and a diverse set of young people as you can. So that's something I don't think we have actually mentioned yet that I think is a really important thing. That's the first step to even getting them there. Creating a solid induction plan, I think, is really important. As I've mentioned, that is what made me kind of feel comfortable. There was lots of information given for me to explore, and informal kind of tea and cake, like we said. So an induction plan is really, really important. And then thirdly would be a kind of as warm a welcome as you can possibly give in that first board meeting. Getting everyone to introduce themselves, take that time at the start before diving in to kind of business as usual, just to get the young board member comfortable, because it worked for me.
That's fantastic, Kate. And you know what, the tea and cake idea that's not the first time it's come up when we've been preparing these resources. So that's fantastic. Well, thank you both so much for your time today, and thank you to Compton Verney for bringing you along and helping to make this happen.